is that whenever that fan runs, whenever we've gotten to a point that we no longer, like all the boilers are shut down, that fan's going to continue to run.
I was going to ask, there's like a delay on it.
There is a delay. It's going to run at minimum speed
until we do
20
some
minutes.
more insulating down here. It's hot.
Yeah.
Bring some cooler air in here.
Yeah. Well, insulating is only going to keep more heat in, so it goes for 20 minutes, but there is a time delay on here, so you can set that for 30 minutes, an hour, whatever you want, kind of thing. It just runs it at minimum speed.
There's no way to turn the fan, like if everything's shut off in it, there's no way to turn that fan on.
You just override the fan.
Override the fan here?
Yeah, you can override the fan. So if you go back to the regular graphic here, so you just, right now that command is on, just because the system's enabled, so we have the dampers open. All we have to do now is stage the fan up, open, or the fan on.
We just need to transfer this over to our...
Yes.
Yes.
So that we can put control.
So that's really it. There's not a lot to this.
Yep. No,
okay.
pretty
Now,
straightforward.
a couple of things just to give you guys notes about. So we have a bunch of relays in here. As long as these relays are in there, just leave them be.
Yep. There's nothing to reset.
These last few, there's nothing. There's no alarm resets or anything else in here. There are drawings that if you get into the drawings, I can't tell you exactly what all of these are. One is for the damper. One is the damper instance, I believe. The other three are the boiler enables. This is the biggest one here. Okay. First off, it's separated over here because this is a 120 volt coil, whereas these are 24 volt coils. Okay. This is the CO2 and glass break relay.
Got it.
Okay. The glass break shutdowns to all three boilers tie it back in directly to here. Okay. If the glass break trips, we shut our enables off. If the CO2 goes off, it all triggers off of this one relay, gives me a signal, and sends everything over to those three boilers to shut down. Okay. Now, if you were having a problem, let's say, that controller over there completely burned up, right? You now need to be able to bypass these controls. You can come over here, you flip this little switch out right here. It doesn't matter if that green light's on or not. It's going to allow those boilers to run.
Got it.
Okay? As long as this is down, if that green light is on,
It's engaged.
those boilers are running. If that green light is off, we've got nothing. Okay? Similarly, if you wanted to prevent these, just removing that relay would do the same thing. It's just going to shut down the BMS system because the BMS is not getting a signal. It's going to shut down the three boilers because they're no longer getting a close contact for the CO and glass break shutdown. That makes sense? Okay. Couple of things in here. Power supply for this is called a Cyber 50. You probably have some Jaces around the building. A Cyber 50 is exactly like a Jace, it just has I/O built into it. There's a Jace built into the backbone of this, so it works and functions exactly like a Jace, just with an I/O controller built onto it. I don't know what controllers they use, whether Spiders, Distech, there's 100 brands that you can use and connect back to a Jace, no problem, okay? So this is the I/O. This is just an expansion I/O controller that connects back to this. This is a 24 volt AC to DC power supply. This is what's providing power to the steam pressure header sensor because we need DC power up there. That's the relay, more relays. They spec'd out and put in a network switch in here, but it's not being used.
So it's not for troubleshooting or anything like that?
This network switch?
Ports or anything? No?
No, because it's not even being used.
Okay.
In theory, what should have happened, the school's network should have come into here and then come out to here. Or what we can do in the future if we needed to do something, say like a backnet IP integration, we can, and without having to tie it into the school's network, a third-party device, I can give it whatever IP address I need, bring it into here, bring it into this extra port that's right here that I'm plugged into, and then if I have to come in and still connect to this, I can plug into this. There's 100 different ways. Nothing's plugged into it, it's not being used, it's just powered on.
Yep.
Okay, that's it. The only thing that's special about this is that it's designed to run off of 24 volts instead of having to be plugged into an outlet. You do have two convenience outlets in here. If you guys just needed a regular outlet to plug in a laptop, a regular outlet to plug in a battery charger for a tool, great. Don't go and get your half-inch cordage drill to mix a bunch of mortar and plug it into this. That's not what this thing is meant for. Okay, it is meant for light duty use. That is it. Okay. Flipping this switch here turns off the 24 volt power to all of this. Flipping this switch kills the entire 120 volts to both the convenience outlet plus the transformer built in. Okay, does that make sense?
We don't want to do that.
Don't want to do that. Now, if you come into here, this light is red, but all of this is dark. Check this. This guy will pop out. It pops out this way, and it will show a big white area behind it. All you have to do is push that back in. If it's still continuing to trip, you need to call somebody out here to come troubleshoot this, because now we've got something that the 24 volts is shorted out and constantly causing that thing to trip. Okay, but it is completely resettable. Sometimes I have seen them, not very often, but I have seen them where they just don't reset anymore because the fuse inside of it went bad. At which
Therefore,
point you
if
have
this
to
has
replace
to
this
be
whole thing.
reset and it's not going back on, the boilers will not function.
The boilers won't fire, but that's why we put HOA switches out in the field on those relays. You have the local control switch on those boilers, but if you left it in remote and just trigger that on, but there's not going to be anything to shut it down except for his controls.
Got it.
So we usually put those in there because there's not always a local mode on boilers, so it allows you to at least go and then, the high limit that's built onto the boiler, would then shut the boiler down and you just constantly fire back and forth through that. Since he has the burner control in there, it'll go up to whatever the burner control is limiting it and then just modulate it to maintain that. So if you leave it in remote. So, but if you lose this, you lose all of this. The other thing that you lose, if you lose all of this, you lose that fan. Okay, so if you lose all of this, my recommendation, at least go over there.
Theoretically, you shouldn't operate the boilers without the fan.
You shouldn't operate the boilers without the fan, but if it's
You have to.
if it's 0 degrees outside, you got to, right? So the only thing is that just because we don't own the motors or the fan or anything, we just control it. The motors are 230 volts, so basically it's two-phase, single phase, basically, for the lack of a better term. But the motors are also internal to there, so you would have to get in there. It's typically a 10 millimeter wrench. Loosen that up, pin your dampers open, do whatever you got to do. Okay.
Derek, did you see this? So there's an override here for the fan to turn on and off.
Yeah, so you guys can override the fan on and off, but if you've lost this, you have no control of any of this. So you got to jump it, you got to go disconnect the damper actuators, open those, pin them open, do whatever you got to do to make sure that you've got at least some way to pull air into this room. Okay?
The damper is open and closed, right? It's not modulating.
They're motorized, two positions, open, close.
Yeah, but those are not modulating.
No. Not modulating, no.
It's opening.
No, I'm just checking because I know that it's just on and off.
There is right now. Again, we operate those fans off of how many boilers are running. But there is a building pressure sensor. It's ducted into this room and then ducted outside to there. It's strictly monitoring. Okay, so it's and with even running this boiler, that building pressure doesn't change. So.
In case we want to tie in the damper to the panel in the future, the CDS tools.
Okay.
Yeah, is that possible? Do you have an arrangement for it, or
you want to just tie in like the statuses or the control of those dampers?
The control of those dampers.
I would not take control of those dampers on each boiler. They need to stay at the boiler, at each respective boiler. If you want us to go up there and monitor it, we can put an in switch on there, tie an in switch off it, and something like that. So at least there's
a panel over there.
Again, just coming from a professional stance, it's a lot of liability for us if we take control of it. Secondly, if we want to fire that boiler and everything else, it's a lot of rework that we have to do in order for us to, one, take control of that damper, and then two, send a signal back to the boiler controller saying, hey, this damper's open. Okay?
No, I'm just
I'll even go as far as to say is that fan should have been tied some way to some kind of controller other than BMS to those boilers directly, saying, hey, we're good to go. Hey, the fan's running. We've got combustion air coming in. Go ahead and fire this thing, right?
But that's how the dampers are right now, because those are connected to the burner and then connected to the
whatever that controller is doing, whatever those are doing, those need to stay. Each damper for each respective boiler needs to stay with this respective boiler. It should never be coming back to the BMS. I see the fans come back to the BMS plenty of times just because we have to modulate that so that way we don't bring in too much air and stuff. I get it. But those dampers, the only thing I would ever want to pick up as a BMS guy is just a status, so I can give these guys. Oh, all the lights went out.
There's on the occupancy.
Is just picking up status, so that that way these guys can go, hey, the combustion fan's running, that damper's open, but boiler's not firing. Why? Right? And that's about it. That's the only thing I would do. Okay, and then at the same time, you know, we could say, okay, hey, if we turn this boiler on, if that damper doesn't open within X amount of time, we generate an alarm, and these guys just know, hey, I need to go check this damper. You know, that'd be about it. Okay. Other than that, there's not much else here. If we were to go flip those on, because we're at 0 pounds and it's been definitely greater than 40 minutes, we're trying to fire all 3 boilers. So we're going to fire all 3 boilers if we go switch all those on right now.